But when I was like in that moment of in between, which I call living in the brown. Right. So I had a friend of mine who was, like your story of being in a relationship and then losing that relationship and being depressed about that, and then being depressed because you screwed up, like whether it was your fault or not, but you were out of this company you're in and all that stuff. My friend lost a relationship, and he was having the hardest time shifting out of it because it wasn't bad enough. It never got bad enough. So
how long was he living in this? With the brown.
So I called it the brown one day. I just said to him, "Man, you're living in the brown." It just hit me as a metaphor.
That's great. Yeah.
And I said because it's never been bad enough for you to get out. And what happened for you when you were in your 20s? You got your eviction notice. Right. You got robbed.
Right.
You lost the girl that you wanted. You had to sell your car to pay the drugs off. You hit black, dude.
That's right.
That's true.
You were in the brown before that.
Yeah, definitely.
And you would have stayed there for a long time.
I probably would have.
Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Maybe you hear this over and over again. We're hitting bottom.
Yeah, is the turning point.
Yeah.
And the black.
Yeah.
It's like, so I told my friend, I said, you need to hit black. You're going to live in the brown forever if you don't hit black. So telling him that made so much sense. And I said, well, how long have you been in the brown? Like, I literally thought it had been like a year. He goes, 12 years.
And that can't be serving either of them.
No, nobody.
Yeah.
His relationship was so negative in the life situation. Every day he knew it was wrong. Every day he knew he was living incorrectly. Like, this isn't right. But it wasn't so bad. Like, in other words, there wasn't like physical abuse, something that would make it clear. Or like a big abusive drug addiction or something. But it was just 12 years of being in this like fighting and unhappiness. So it was me pointing out the brown that pushed him into the black. I said, you've got to go through the door, the black door, in order to find the light again. You've got to force yourself to end the relationship, to push through. And so finally, it took a couple more years. Literally, it did. It took like 2 more years.
Wow.
But when we talk about it now, he'll say, you know, your whole thing in the brown and the whole thing pulled me right through it. And for me, when I was, my left hand was completely paralyzed and couldn't do anything. Like, I mean, it's still hard for me to get dressed. It's hard for me I can't open a bag of tea hardly. Losing the ability to play the guitar completely, losing the ability to play the flute completely. My rhythm is off when I try to play rhythm. I can hold a stick now. Piano's coming back because it's different. My hand has improved. But anyway, my point is, losing all of that put me in the brown. I was just like, every day it was hard for me to feel motivated to
do something. So when you wake up, do you want to get out of bed?
Do you want to get out of bed? Because why? What's the point?
Yeah.
Who am I? What am I going to do? So in that moment, there was a moment where I was like, okay, you know what? Because the secondary response was, first of all, there was a whole year, like literally a year, where I couldn't be around musical instruments. It made me feel sick to my stomach. Like I wanted to throw up, for real, like physically ill.
So the thing you want the most is the thing that like makes you feel ill.
That, absolutely. If you can't do it,
that's hard to reconcile.
Yeah. It's like it's gone.
Yeah.
So for about a year, I couldn't even be around it. Like literally, it would just make me feel so hurt inside, like so sad, like I would cry. Like I remember sitting at a piano and just weeping, and looking at. You'll look around here. There's no guitars in this room. There's none. And normally, you'd see them around. Yeah. Now there are some upstairs, but this is where I would play, and so I put them away because I can't play them, and that makes me sad. But anyway, I don't feel that way so much anymore. The sadness. But when I was in the brown, there was a moment I recognized it, and I said to myself that what I had to do was start doing something that I loved, doing something that gave me passion, what I used to have, so that I had a reason to get up, to stop hitting the metaphorical snooze alarm.
Yeah.
And it's not that I didn't have a passion, I certainly did, and that was to heal. So my whole life became about healing, like literally, and I mean it still is, but I moved to Australia. I literally moved to Australia to heal for a month. I was there and did therapies and then research, and every day that's all I did. I mean I was passionate about it. But being passionate about healing isn't the same about doing something where you like have like this meaning behind it, like this bigger purpose, like you're something you can do that you used to do, whatever. So one day I realized, you know, I have to begin doing something. And so I started playing the piano again with one hand. And I started writing music again, mostly with one hand. But I could play the left side with my right hand and the other side, and I could record.
Oh, yes.
Doing both,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I started writing music that way, and I started to get really excited again, you know. And I started to overcome that. I started working on a book, and my left hand has gotten better. So it's gotten a little bit better. So I can play the piano a little bit, and so I can do that a little bit, and it's getting better in that way. Guitar and things like that are completely out of the question, but being able to play is like so good. It feels so good to me.
Mm-hmm.
But having something, even though I felt like it wasn't good enough for the world anymore, and reconciling that and being okay with that, and getting passionate about it. So then I started writing a book again. It's like the music, not being able to play the music made me feel like I couldn't do anything.
Right.
Even though I'm a writer and a speaker and
so many of us do that. We know
Well,
we
music was
have a setback.
first.
yeah,
right?
totally.
But we have a setback in our life, and it gets in the way of us doing the other things.
The other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, like music was, and always like the first thing that I felt so much passion in, my creative abilities, and it would inspire other things, like writing. I would sit at the piano, and then I'd have an idea for a talk, have an idea for a poem, have an idea for
Because it's your meditation.
It's a meditation, right? And I couldn't do it anymore. But I started playing, even though it wasn't good. I had to be okay with that. I had to be okay with not sounding good for myself.
We're going back to this acceptance idea. Again.
Acceptance,
Right.
accepting who I am and what I am and who I am now. Because as we talked about before, if we're stuck on what we used to be, we can never become that which we are intended
or the
to
idea
be.
or the idea of what we should be.
Or what we should
We
be.
can still aspire, but we shouldn't feel bad about not being there yet.
Because if we do, the guilt
Right.
keeps you from doing it.
Yeah, it keeps you from getting there. Right. It eliminates the possibility of you getting to the place where you need to be.
So I got out of the brown. The ultimate point I want to make is that living in the brown keeps you from living with passion. And if you don't have a passion, you don't have a reason. If you don't have a passion, you don't have a reason to stop hitting the snooze alarm.
Right.
You know, it's like, oh, I might as well just go to sleep. I might as well just go, metaphorically kind of go through life as a robot.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden I got passionate again about music, and I've written so much music, and a lot of it I wrote before I got hurt, or started writing, but I finished it, you know. And then I've written new music, and I've written enough and combined with what I was writing that I have over 2 albums worth of new music in my life. And I've started writing a book, and I've written about 300 pages in about 2 to 3 months, which is pretty insane
Yes.
level. But what it's done for me, going through the process, like, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow, I'm not going to hang out there, you know. and so
Is that how that quote goes?
I think that's how it is. Psalms, Barry 23. But hanging out there, man.
Yeah. So if you're in the valley of the shadow of death, you don't sit there.
Brown.
You don't sit on a rock.
Valley of the Shadow of Brown.
Yeah. But you don't sit on a rock and enjoy the scenery.
No, you don't, because it doesn't look good. You keep walking.
You get out of there. Yeah.
You keep walking.
Yeah.
But so the steps that I would say can help all of us move through those difficult, dark times in life, whether it's depression, which of course sometimes is just a chemical thing for people,
Sure,
and sometimes there is
They don't have control.
a medication that can help,
Yep.
you know, and that's a fact for a lot of people. You know, Robin Williams is a great example of a person who, it's like, when I learned I respected and loved Robin Williams so much for his brilliance. When I learned that he lived his whole life depressed, it's hard to imagine.
It is.
It is. Yeah.
Because talk about a bright light in a room.
All we saw was the bright
Yeah.
light, the brilliance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you just saw that, and he just embodied this bright light. In fact, many people have actually said, "You remind me of Robin." When I speak, they say, "You remind me of Robin Williams. Like, you're so funny and you're so, you know, outrageous." And of course, I always said that. Boy, that's a huge compliment, because that guy is one of my favorites. So anyway, when Robin Williams committed suicide,
Right.
I was
Who saw that coming?
who saw that coming? But for him, of course, and for many people, it's a chemical imbalance.
Sure.
And for some people, there can be a medication that can help you through that. For a lot of us, of course, it's not that. It's just life hits us hard, and it does. at times, and how do we get out of it? So, you know, from what we've talked about, the nuggets of climbing out of that, the first thing is what you said, and that is stop beating yourself over the head about being depressed.
Drop the guilt.
Drop the guilt, the shame
Yeah.
about it, because that's a layer that sinks the boat.
Yeah.
It's like it's the final lead weight that just
Yeah.
So
Well,
and it's the spiral, right? I mean, that's how you
It
surface.
is.
right. It's the guilt,
Self-reinforcing cycle,
and then you
yeah.
feed the wolf. In your
The
case,
bad
it's
wolf,
been
right.
caught or whatever. It can
Well,
be
whatever
it can be
the
lots of
bad wolf
things.
is
Yeah.
in our lives.
Yeah. And so the guilt brings around that. And then the second thing, you know, that I would say is there's, and again, there's tons of science to back this up, a lot, but it's the fact that having a purpose, something you're passionate about, creates happiness. I mean, it just does. And there's tons of scientific research to show that what I'm saying is not just a bunch of mumbo jumbo, but it's true. If you have passion and purpose, suddenly you have a reason to get up and do, and you feel you have a purpose, and it makes you happy. It feels good.
If you're new to YouTube, then let me explain. You gotta give a thumbs up, that's how we play the game. You see, the more thumbs up a video gets, the more the powers that be distribute the video for others around the world to see. Next to subscribe button, there's a little bell. You gotta click on this little guy as well. Then only then will YouTube inform and let you know that Tipping Point Productions has got a new video. So give a thumbs up, click the bell, and share the love. So together we can take the truth and rise.